Hey, my friends, it's Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast and our very final episode on the book of Matthew. 800 episodes in total, and more so than being proud of the fact that we did 800 together, because, it's so many, I'm more proud that we just got it right to 800 because it's such a round number and it's so satisfying. It feels great. Hey, you know what we were trying to do here, right? If you've listened to the whole thing or even part of it, I think we've been on the same page in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. But just in case, let's just reset it. What comes to mind for you? What have been the themes, not of the book of Matthew, but of our conversation about the book of Matthew? Okay, I got my fingers up here. Let's start with one. It's my thumb. Number one, we want to get the book of Matthew in our hip pocket. I just understand one book of the Bible, one that has the main character of Jesus. It seems like he's the centerpiece of the Bible and the big point of everything, most important character in all of history, all of redemptive history. We want to understand him better, and we want to do it at such a pace that we can chase down I'm holding up my second finger now, the second thing, that we can chase down every rabbit trail that we can think of, that we can go and look at all the different parts of the Bible, no limitations of we got only 30 minutes because the sermon is Sunday morning in church. I love church, and I love the way that works there. But this new medium that has come to exist here in the last 15 or 20 years, podcasting, has given us the opportunity to approach this in a weird way that's a little bit unprecedented. And I think that is awesome. So those have been a couple of themes. A third theme. Oh, yeah. The bottom line isn't getting you to think my stuff. That's a third theme of this conversation. The objective is for you to understand the material, and I believe and hope, but if this isn't your conviction, it's not your conviction, but I believe there's a God behind this thing, and I'm hoping that somehow the time that we're spending with this helps you think that through, or maybe even actually connect with the deity who I think is the deity who made all of the things. If ultimately we end up landing in different places, again, part of the luxury of the medium is that, we can just exhale and enjoy each other's company, and we're all in whatever process we're in, and we can just like each other and high five where we happen to disagree today and not fret about it, and just benefit from the fact that we're working on this whole thing together. That's awesome. A fourth theme of this podcast is that you are good at the Bible. You're good at interpreting things. You might imagine that it's a job for fancy people who went to school for it and read a whole bunch of books and learned a bunch of ancient languages. And it's true. That stuff's cool and fun and helpful and good. And there are people who are amazing at this, who I have so much admiration for. Also, you're really good at this, and you can do it on your own. You go through life interpreting things all the time. You are a very gifted, experienced interpreter. You're great at reading between the lines and making connections and seeing patterns. I want to talk about the themes in Matthew. So what are they? What comes to mind? What are the big themes that, after doing all of this, pop for you? I'm going to give you just a couple seconds. I'm just going to mutter and hum and ha a little bit and just let you got any of them? You're holding up fingers, 3, 4, maybe a couple of them. Okay, I got some. Here's the biggest one to me. King and kingdom. There is a king. This king is initiating a kingdom. Both are the truest, realest thing ever, and you can be a part. Now, that leads me to my second theme that I think is present throughout Matthew. He's trying to pound that concept primarily for a Jewish audience or for someone in the first century who would have been familiar with the Jewish religion, Jewish history, what we call the Old Testament, but the Jewish scriptures at that point. And so this theme of fulfillment is very present. That this Jesus isn't just some new thing that happened where a guy had a vision and he found some stuff and then God told him some things and all of a sudden, I guess you're just going to have to follow me and you're just going to have to take my word for it. I had a vision or something, so just follow me. No. Matthew is saying this is a through line to the beginning of existence. Jesus always has been. This has always been the plan, and all of the stories, all of the law, all of the poems, all of the prophecy, both subtle and overt, of everything we've seen come before now, it's all culminating in Jesus. This is the fulfillment of everything you already believe in right here. This isn't a new religion. This isn't a new God. This is God's ultimate plan for redemption. It always has been. And that leads me to a third theme that I've seen throughout Matthew. It's for everybody. This is not just another little local ethnic religion where you latch onto a god, you do some sculptures of him and stuff, maybe execute some people, cardiectomies, or maybe some horses, or you kill some things, or like have some wars, or I don't know. And like that's your little religion. You had an idol or whatever, and nobody else cares about it. Nobody else knows about it. No. We're talking here, according to Matthew, we're talking about the God, the one who has claim to all of existence, all of creation, and the one who has compassion for all of creation, not like local regional deities who only like their people, who look like their people. No, this God is making a new family of faith with sons and daughters from everywhere. This is a totally different proposition than just about anything the world had ever seen. So the deal is that Matthew is saying that Jesus isn't just the fulfillment of the Old Testament. He's the fulfillment of the covenant with Abraham. And the fulfillment of the covenant with Abraham includes the stipulation that Abraham's descendants and the story that comes out of all of that is going to be a blessing to all the nations. So we've got a great king of a great kingdom that was predicted, and the values of it are perfect and beautiful, and they're different from the world. And all of this is not some brand new thing that you just got to take a leap of faith and believe in. It's all directly tied to, flows out of, is the completion and fulfillment of what has happened in the past, including the idea that is not novel, but that has been baked into it from the beginning, that this is for everyone, and it always was for everyone. And by the work of Christ, that's going to become totally evident. We talked a ton there at the end of Matthew chapter 28 about a fourth theme, and that is, who is Jesus and what kind of authority does he wield? I mean, wasn't it mind-blowing when we went through that? We're like, this authority word is everywhere throughout Matthew. How did I not notice this to the level that it is there? Well, when you go back through it, you got your antenna out for it, like so many other things that are there, but you miss on the first try, it pops big time. Jesus is not a prophet. Jesus is not like Moses or Elijah. He is the next level. And Matthew really spells that out for us in the Transfiguration. He really spells that out for us in everything that happens around his death and his resurrection and what occurs after that. He does things that are like Moses and in completion of what Moses was and in perfection of what Moses was. But Moses was a picture that pointed to Jesus, as is the case with so many of the other Old Testament characters. That's part of why, if you think about the last three themes we've talked about, that Matthew 5:17 reference that we covered so much, don't think that I came to abolish the law and the prophets. I didn't come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. That's why some people say that's the most important verse in all of the book of Matthew. That's the key verse. And then I think the other theme that we talked about a ton that we see throughout the book of Matthew is just tension. You can just feel this thing building. It's a collision course. There's no way the practitioners, the priests of the world kingdom, the religious leadership are going to share their title of mediator between God and man with this Galilean guy. They're just not doing it. And they're going to do whatever it takes, bend whatever rules, break whatever rules, violate whatever remaining integrity they have, shed whatever blood they need to get rid of him and reassert through violence and deception their hold on this position, which only goes to further set in relief the values of the kingdom and the character of the true king from the values and the characters of the competition for the claim on the heart of humankind. Jesus just comes out looking great the more the tension ratchets up. John just comes out and says it. He gets to the end of his book and he's like, hey, Jesus did a bunch more stuff. The stuff that's written down here, I picked and wrote down so there'd be enough for you to believe. Matthew doesn't say it, but he says it. It's all over the book of Matthew. He's got a thesis. Jesus is the completion of everything that came before. He quotes Jesus saying it, and then he lays it out. Like, here's a genealogy. Here's all this stuff. Look, he ticks all the boxes. He is the right guy. Everything he needs in terms of pedigree, he's that. Everything he needs to be the Son of God, the Messiah, the one who straightens this all out, the culminating character in God's redemptive plan, God in the flesh. Character-wise, he's got all of it. Ability-wise, he's got all of it. Authority-wise, he's got all of it. He lacks nothing, and yet he's taking on this humble nature of a servant. and what's coming into focus throughout the book of Matthew is that is reflective of the values of this kingdom. And again, it stands in relief to the values of the world kingdom. I think Matthew wants you to get to the end and be like, yeah, all right, you made your case. Okay, I see it. I don't really have a lot of good arguments against. It's some big claims, but if he's not the fulfillment of all the stuff that came in the story before, I don't know who would be. And if he's not the fulfillment of the Messiah described in Isaiah, I don't know who would be. And if death couldn't beat him, then yeah, like Peter said in chapter 16, okay, yeah, I guess that means he's the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of God. And even the details that we looked at over the last few weeks in the resurrection, some of those, one of the most difficult to believe parts. Like, somebody came back from the dead. Are you kidding? Matthew gives us a bunch of details. Why does he do that? Well, it's because he wants you to believe that Jesus is the king. It's because he wants you to believe that there is a kingdom. And even from beyond the grave right now, Matthew is hoping that people like you and me will read this thing at this point and be like, look, I don't know what to do with all the things that people do with this, like in society and politics, and for however long Christianity has existed, like that can be a mixed bag, a weird thing, whatever. But at its core, if the claim of Christian faith is rooted in Christ, I think Matthew from beyond is hoping that people like you and me will read that and be like, if Jesus is a centerpiece, that's a really compelling case for who he is as king, who he is as Messiah, who he is as Savior, who he is as the guy who bridges the gap between God and man. I think Matthew just wants you to read it and be like, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm in looks like, but I'm in. Bottom line, I think what Matthew is trying to accomplish with the book we just worked through together is to convince the original audience first, and you, anybody who's come after the fact, me second, that Jesus is the Son of God, the Christ, the Messiah, God in the flesh. I think he's trying to convince us that he's the fulfillment of everything that happened before him. I think he's trying to convince us that he's the centerpiece of God's redemptive plan. I think he's trying to convince us that we should become kingdom citizens, that we should become a part of that new family of faith. And I'll shoot straight with you. That's where I'm at more than I've ever been after this trip through Matthew. It's had a very big effect on me. I am not a flat character in this conversation. I am evolving and changing and subject to the same processes you're subject to as we work through this stuff. And I am probably at an all-time high in terms of my level of persuasion that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of God, God in the flesh. And I've been around this for a long time. So for me, I got to say, nice job, Matthew. It was a very effective case. It got through the armor for me, and it has affected the way I think. And maybe that's not the case for you. Maybe it is. Maybe it affected you in a very different way. But wherever you are at with it, thanks for doing this with me. What a massive undertaking. And I'm not your dad, so I don't want you to take it the wrong way. But, well, like for 3 of you, I'm your dad. I know you guys listen. But for the rest of you, I'm not your dad. But still, please take it the right way. I'm proud of you. Thank you for hanging out with people who aren't like you and investing in something that is timeless. And you decided you were going to throw serious energy at something, maybe for the last 3 years and 2 months or whatever it's been. That's amazing. It's an act of character, and I respect you for it. And I'm thankful that we got to spend the time together. And I'm going to literally turn off this microphone right now. And as weird as this sounds, I'm going to, in my own broken, fumbling, clumsy, weird, I don't know what I'm doing anymore way, I'm going to pray for you that whatever the maker of all things has in store for you and wherever you are at in your journey, that there would be clarity and there would be goodness and there would be depth and that there would be a sense of connectedness and of the presence of the God who I believe is behind this text. I enjoyed this, and I hope next you'll go through the entire Bible with me, 1 book per day until we're done with it. That's what's up. Like literally the next episode. That's what we're starting with. I hope I'll see you there. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.